What's up, vinyl community? It's your boy Chris. There's those of you who follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my channel on YouTube, know me as @Tunes from the Man Cave. I saw a lot of very interesting giveaways and contests here lately on YouTube and the VC, and I'm always very intrigued by those, especially when they come with terms and when they come with conditions, like 5 favorite albums, or just any example you can think of, is that it poses a question to you and it makes you think and it makes you really dive into your collection, not just hey, say you're in and I'll pick a random number and you win. Those are boring. I never enter those. I don't see them very much in the vinyl community anymore, but I've seen them before. This one's for Robert Z's January giveaway. I was really intrigued by his answer. I found out about his contest, even though I subscribed to him and have for a while. I actually found out about it through Melinda Murphy's video, which was great, and I was intrigued by the idea, and the concept, and the idea is basically your Mount Rushmore of singers, your favorite singers, not necessarily your favorite artist or your favorite bands or your favorite albums or anything like that, but if somebody was to have a sculpture in your music room and it was in the Mount Rushmore tradition, and it was your 4 favorite singers, the people you enjoy listening to the most. I had to really think about a couple. A couple were obvious, and I had to think about a couple because I'm trying to think of, just who I like to listen to the most. Not necessarily who has the best music, who has the best albums, but just whose voice I really enjoy hearing. And I put together 4 in an honorable mention because Melinda did, and so why not? I like the idea. There's one in particular that I wanted to make sure I dropped as an honorable mention, so why not? So I'm going to go 4 to 1, and then the honorable mention. Number 4 for me, and this was tough because a couple of these 4 and 3 could have interchanged. Something I've always thought about is who's your, a debate that me and a few friends have is who's your favorite soul man of all time? Who's your favorite soul singer, your soul artist of all time? And obviously there's plenty of ways you could go. You could go James Brown, go Curtis Mayfield, Sam Cooke, Otis Redding. You can go plenty of places. So for me, a lot of times it's an essential tie between my 4th place and my 3rd place here in this stack. But for me, it's which of these 2 do I find myself most often in the mood to listen to? And that's the tiebreaker. So, number 4, Otis Redding. Otis Redding just poured his heart and his soul into everything. Into every note. You could tell he felt it. And it was just deep down. It was a gift from God. And you could just tell. And he just gave it his everything. And he's a, long list of artists taken from us far too soon, obviously. But show you my Otis Redding wax. Obviously, I could have done with just 1 album, but I'm a show off. This is one that I found this in a freaking thrift store, and it's one of the ones I had the hardest time finding. So when I found that in a thrift store for cheap, I can't remember the exact price, but needless to say, I about made a mess in that store. Needless to say, I still can't believe I found that in a thrift store. Dirt cheap eBay find for this one. Found that one in a record store. It was another one that was kind of hard for me to find. I was pretty happy that day. And I unfortunately don't have an original pressing of this one. I've really been looking for it. I found a couple of options before, but the condition was just terrible, and this album's so great that I refuse to have one that's not in great condition. But it was a record store day release a couple of years ago, and has the mono and the stereo pressings in the same collection. So it's like, what, I really want this album. So this will tide me over until I get my original pressing in great condition someday. I've found this thing beat to all hell before, and I just won't settle for this album beat to all hell. I won't have one of those copies just to say I have it. This is a very great record store day pressing. I'm happy to have it. And I saved this one for last because, not because it's my favorite album. My favorite Otis album is probably either Pain in My Heart or Otis Blue. But have you guys ever been in a record store before and you go to this record store specifically because you haven't been in a while. And it's not the one you usually go to, but it's way out of your way. It's like an hour out of your way. But you go because you're like, you know what, I hadn't been there in a while. These other stores I usually hit, I go to all the time, and let me see if I strike gold at this record store today. And for me, this particular record store is 45 minutes in the opposite direction, and the city that it's in isn't nearly as fun as the city that features my favorite record stores. The city that features my favorite record stores, even if you go to the record stores and you don't find a whole lot, well, it's a great city. You'll get into something. Like, okay, my vinyl scores were weak today, but, you look around in any direction and there's plenty for you to get into. This other city, not as much. But I look around the whole store and I don't find anything. And I am just bummed. And I'm like, I don't know what made me, I go in and I look on the wall. Like, okay, nothing remarkable. And the ones that were, I had. I hit the jazz section. It's a bunch of reissues that day. And it's like, okay, not feeling that. And I go hit the classic rock section real quick. And it's like, okay, there's some good stuff, but the good stuff I have. And by that point, I was so deterred that I almost just left. But I was like, no, obviously I can't just leave the soul section. I go hit the soul section and I dig A, B, C, D. I get all the way to the R's and I'm just shaking my head. I'm kind of pissed off, actually. I'm just bummed. And I get to the R's and original pressing of this beauty here. Immediately my frown turned upside down. This is the only record I left that store with that day, but this one alone made it worth it. I can't remember what I spent on it. I don't give a damn, but I was just so thrilled. The fact that this was the only record I left out with didn't mean anything to me all of a sudden. I was just thrilled, and it was great from there. Coincidentally, I haven't been back to that store since, but I was just so bummed that it's like, you know what? How often am I going to go down there and find this one classic? But I'll go back at some point. It really is a nice store. It's a good location, nice ownership. Anyway, I digress. Number 3 for me, and this was the tiebreaker with Otis. But this guy, for me, I don't have as many of his albums as I do Otis. I haven't had as easy of a time finding his albums. It's the great Sam Cooke. God, I love to listen to that man sing. It's just, he's smooth, he's cool, he's charming. You listen to his live albums, he sounds just as good live as he does on the albums. Bring It On Home to Me is one of my favorite songs of all time. You let any Sam Cooke at all song come on. You Send Me, oh my God, I love You Send Me. You let any Sam Cooke song at all come on, and it just instantly puts me in a better mood. And again, I love, he's one of the, I don't usually listen to live albums that much, but I love live Sam Cooke. When I bought this one, it was actually sealed. So I was thrilled to throw that on. A couple of compilations in here. My Foolish Heart. Sam Cooke hits of the 50s. Sam Cooke at the Copa. This is, sadly, the only Sam Cooke studio album I own. It is an original pressing. So many of them I want. The reissues are readily available. I'm just trying my damnedest to hold out for some original Sam Cooke because I just love him so much. He's one of my favorites of all time. I made this comparison one time. You either agree with it or you don't. Sam Cooke for me is basically the Frank Sinatra of soul. He's just so damn cool and he's so damn charming. He's a good looking guy. And he sounds great live. And he's great connection and chemistry with the audience. And it's just, I love Sam Cooke. Number 3 on my list. 2019 is the year I'm going to add more Sam Cooke studio to my collection. Best believe. Number 2 might surprise a couple of you guys, especially those of you who don't know, who know me personally, maybe not, but those of you who only know me through my videos that you've seen, it might surprise you. But I've probably owned more albums from this artist in my lifetime. I'm talking about CD, vinyl, all formats than I have any other artist. I grew up on this guy. He can do no wrong in my book, ever. I've never heard an album I didn't like. It's the King, George Strait. Country music god, in my opinion. My goal is to have every George Strait album available on vinyl. I think I'm 3 short. Chill of an Early Fall. I don't have Twang. There's 1 or 2. I think there's 1 more I don't have. I'm trying like hell. This is a compilation that just come out last year. It's the Icon series. Last studio album, Cold Beer Conversation. Pure Country was put out on vinyl, I think, a year or 2 ago. And when it was, man, I was thrilled. I love the album and I freaking love the movie. And anybody who wants to make fun of me about it, bring it. I don't care. Beyond the Blue Neon. Still in the shrink, and I don't know why. Because I freaking hate shrink wrap. So I'm getting ready to take that off. Yeah, that's getting ready to come off as soon as this video's over. I hate shrink wrap. Living It Up. Again, these are all original presses because they've only been pressed once, as far as I know. Greatest Hits Volume 2. If You Ain't Loving, You Ain't Living. Does Fort Worth Ever Cross Your Mind? Right or Wrong. Greatest Hits Volume 1. Number 7. Not a very creative title, King, but man could do no. He could name the albums George Strait Has a Bowel Movement Volumes 1, 2 through 50, and I'll buy the shit out of them, I promise you. Something Special. Oceanfront Property actually was reissued, I think, a year or 2 ago. So for those of you who really like to have this album, I've had a couple of friends of mine from up north tell me they have a hard time finding George Strait records. I see them all the time down here. So I've actually even promised a buddy of mine from New Jersey that, hey man, next time I see a couple, I'll grab them for you and I'll send them to you. And I intend to keep that promise, Mike, if you're watching. George Strait, Straight Country. Love it. George Strait, straight from the heart. Again, I think I'm missing 2 or 3. I intend to complete that. It'd be cool to complete that this year. Why not? I don't make New Year's resolutions. I don't believe in them, but I do make vinyl resolutions. I will have you all by the end of this year. Special news bulletin, you guys. Chris, at Tunes from the Man Cave, is drinking water. Tunes in a cold water. All right, my number 1. A lot of you who know me well have no doubt guessed it by now. You see this stack, and this isn't even everything he's ever been on. This is just his. This is just his non-Beatles stuff. Which obviously the stack would you wouldn't it'd be over my beard. But my entire life, a couple of you guys have already watched a few of these videos. My dad's greatest contribution to me in terms of my love for music is the legendary Paul McCartney. Nobody I would rather listen to sing than Paul McCartney. Nobody. Nobody. The Beatles have so many greats. They've got 4 two-time Hall of Famers. 2-time Rock and Roll Hall of Famers. You can't go wrong. So anybody who says George is their favorite, it's like, okay, I massively disagree with you, but I won't argue with any of you. I've even met some Ringo people before. Ringo needs some more love, you guys. Going through my Paul McCartney and Wings stuff. It's an interesting little release from probably 10 years ago, I'd say. Got some live stuff on it. Red Rose Speedway. Thing about the Wings stuff, guys, is it's cheap. But courtesy of my dad, McCartney 2. Courtesy of my dad, I was raised on Paul McCartney and Wings. I didn't know about the Beatles until I was a teenager. I knew who they were. I'd heard of them, obviously. But I had to dive in myself. My dad didn't play Beatles when I was coming up. Ram, obviously, with Linda. A lot of people I know say that that's their favorite Paul project. I disagree, but it's all good. Debut. This is a UK pressing. UK first. I've always loved that picture on the back of this album. I even wanted to duplicate it with my daughter, but unfortunately it slipped away from us and I let her get too big. My daughter weighs 30 pounds now, so not going to pull it off as convincingly. This Paul McCartney All the Best. You don't really need it if you've got the albums, but if you're me and you're insane and you like to have all the McCartney you can get your hands on, then why the hell not? Another one, probably don't need if you have all the albums. This is a great 4LP box set, pure McCartney. Love it. What I like so much about it is there's a lot of deep cuts. Paul picked the list himself. He curated the set himself. Your favorite hits are probably on here. There might be one or two missing. But then there's some last few album stuff, some 90s album stuff, early 2000s album stuff. There's plenty on here for everybody. Like, so, you know, you not only do you hear the hits, but you get some deep cuts if you don't have all the albums. Maybe you hear something on there that makes you want to get the album that song's on. So that's cool. New. I really liked this album when it came out. I think it came out like 2012 or 13. I can't remember. I think it was 2013. One of my favorite pieces in my Paul McCartney collection. This is an original pressing of Flaming Pie. Damn, it was hard for me to get that at a half decent price. I think I ended up shelling out about $75, which for any of you guys who've gone looking for that album, you know it goes for way more. Another one that I looked for an original pressing of for a long time, and I got lucky when they reissued it, when Paul reissued it, I think last year, Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. I've always loved the album cover photo. Appears to be Paul in the late 50s or early 60s strumming a guitar, probably in his backyard. I love the photo, and I love the album. It's great music. Reissued last year. I'd love to get my hands on that original, but I just really wanted the album above all. Tug of War. Showing you guys a bunch of albums that you've seen 10,000 times, and I'm sorry. Back to the Egg. You know, definitely not Paul's finest moment as an artist. I don't know if I can think of a single song on there that I absolutely love. There's that Russian album Paul McCartney put out. Great stuff. I really like it. I can remember it being expensive for a little while. Now, not so much. It seems like it's a lot easier to find. Wings Greatest. This is a Spanish pressing. I remember finding it in a record store in Knoxville, Tennessee, and just thinking it was just really cool. Coincidentally, Spanish pressings just don't sound as good as US's or UK's. They're definitely not as good as Japanese's, but Venus and Mars. Wings at the Speed of Sound. Wings Over America. This is the McCartney Archive issue, and I bought this one. I bought this one because this is the first Paul McCartney and Wings album I ever heard. It was my first exposure to the album, and I just loved it. I still love it to this day. It's 3 LPs, super common. You could probably walk in any record store in this country and find the 3 LP set, this 3 LP set for freaking, you know, $8. But it's remarkable, and I fell in love with Paul McCartney and Wings because of it. And this is the copy that I grew up listening to. This is the one that my dad gave me. And I bought the archive copy and kept the archive copy because this one's a little beat. We played it so much. There's some surface noise, a couple skips here and there. So I'll never give this away. I treasure it. I'll never get rid of it. But I really just wanted to hear this album all the way through as clean as I could get it. And so I went with the archive issue. I've got a half-speed master copy. Band on the Run. Give me a second. And my favorite piece of my McCartney collection, besides the sentimental Wings Over America that I got from my father, is my Paul McCartney and Wings Band on the Run. One of my favorite albums of all time, half-speed mastered copy. I used to have 7 copies of Band on the Run. I used to. I bought every pressing, the reissue that came out a couple of years ago on colored vinyl. I bought it. I bought every pressing I could get my hands on, and then, you know, last year I realized I was a crazy person and started purging my collection. And so I kept my favorite copy, my favorite sounding copy. That's one of my favorite albums of all time, period. It's just got all my favorite songs on it. All of them. Band on the Run, Jet, Bluebird, Let Me Roll It, which is my favorite Paul McCartney and Wings song. And 1985 has always been a neat song for me because that's the year I was born. And this album obviously did not come out in 1985. It came out in 1973. So that's my 4 through 1. That's my Mount Rushmore of singers. That's just, you know, people I just enjoy singing, you know, listening to hear sing, I should say. And my honorable mention for that, and I threw this artist out as an honorable mention more so because I don't own as many of her albums. There are not as many available on vinyl. A couple of them from the late 80s, early 90s are hard to find. These that I'm getting ready to show you are growing in value all the time, all but one. Alison Krauss and Union Station. I love Alison Krauss. God, I love Alison Krauss. I love her so much. I actually just listened to this album as I was putting these albums together for this video because I hadn't listened to it in a while. It's, you know, more mid to late 90s release. It's an original master recording, as you guys can see. It's one of the few original master recordings I still own. I used to own about 100 of them, and I purged them when I really needed money last year. You're welcome, Dylan, because I think you got damn near all of them. Her most recent studio album, Windy City. I've actually only been through it once, but it's a solo album. It's not with, you know, Dan Tominski and, you know, the rest of Union Station. It's a really good album because I've never heard anything with her on it that I didn't like. And the Holy Shit one, which I don't know if any of you guys are familiar. Alison Krauss and Union Station Live. Original master recording. Box set. If you go by median value on Discogs, it's like a top 3 most valuable album I own, and you guys know how much original jazz I have. So that tells you something. I think the median value last time I looked was like $320 for this thing. I don't know how. I mean, I know there's only so many press. Mine's copy number 2007. You know, maybe I can't remember the, you know, what number it's limited to. It's freaking amazing. I grew up listening to this album with my dad, you know, with my parents, and I love it. And when it came out, I paid, I think, 40 or 50 bucks for it. And I could turn around and flip it easy for 300 right now. I really don't want to. I love the album. I love it. It's got all my favorite Allison songs are on it. The Lucky One, Baby Now That I Found You. Every Time You Say Goodbye. I love them. Oh, Atlanta. I love Oh, Atlanta. Sum it up this way for my love and affection for Alison Krauss. If I was the world's biggest sinner, and I was to be told, I was to be given a guarantee that there was a heaven, and that Alison Krauss was the angel that would sing to me every day in heaven, I would turn my life around and Christian right up just so I could get to heaven to hear her sing for an eternity. That's what I think of her voice. If that's not a gift, I don't know what is. So that sums it all up for you, I think. So my 4 picks and an honorable mention. I think that this is a great idea for a contest. Thanks for putting it together. I love your channel. I hope the rest of you guys watching this will also, I think this one ends in a couple of days, guys. So if you plan on getting in, hurry up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well while you're there. It's a great channel if you don't already subscribe. So check it out. And until next time, until next video, keep dropping that needle, you guys.